rising international issues as well as professional requirement. The organization is increasing. All of us know that what we are trying to do, that what matters to us, because it's more important as a challenge that everybody is also addressing that. And planning and development is mutually supportive, because we not only look at the planning but also to see how best it can be oriented towards development. And urban planning issues is basically on the land and activities, which is for the people. Whatever the technology, whatever the planning strategies and standard is oriented to the people. That's what I give more importance. And traditional methods and traditional practices, but we are also today we are using our geographic information system technically. Niti Aayog is also trying to promote many things today. We are talking about urban local governments, and there's a lot of GDPs are generated by urban activities, and urban planning machinery has been changing, and that's what we're talking about urban agenda now. And Chicago School also, we've been trying to envisage that about the people's psychology. That's one point which I like it. And also mapping and mitigation of digital divide. So we will see that the broadband issue, access to work community and partners, what we learned from COVID-19 is a challenge. And also change required in cities. So there are researchers working on that. There's special challenges about urban areas is a main focus. And what is the global competence today? It is the era of competence. So how response to situation according to the availability of knowledge and techniques and technology, whatever it may be. So now 21st century, it is knowledge and skill is very important for planners. So it should be investigative, it should be recognizing perspectives of people and communicate the ideas and take action, because that's become very important, because of globally competent planners has to
Hello there, can you hear me?
And knowledge to not to just learn about the world, but to make difference in the world. One, is a person who is a computer scientist trying to see how cities can become smarter. So these perception is sensors, edge computing, and things are we're talking about IoTs. So if you see that IoT now, we think so many things, everything we're talking about, everything is in the handshake. So houses and things are happening at the house also. You may be surprised to see the right end of the picture. You can see that one instrument is there. Can you tell what is this about? Anybody understand? Yes. What this instrument is left in the house. Smart house today. Any quick thing? So one on the right and low. Upper part you know that how you make the coffee with the electronic system. The lower part, right side corner. Any guess? No price, but at least you can tell me what is this. Huh?
Quality check.
Quality check. Coffee making machine, somebody said. When I was presenting some of the class. Coffee making machine, something like it. Does it look like that? Yes. Yes? Coffee making, grinder. Make coffee and drink and sleep. Interesting. It is very important, because if we are adopting technology as it is, we are not looking at what is the use of the technology, how we can use it in our country. This is nothing but cat feeder. The person sitting in the house and feeding the cat. So that's what you have to see. That otherwise, our mind will go only machines are all meant for coffee, tea, and making all those things. No, it's a specific question, because of blind thinking, just adopting. I don't think work in Indian side. How many of you agree to say that tomorrow onwards I will use electronic vehicle from your house to office, house to college, house to shopping in this hall? How many of you are ready to use electronic vehicle? It's a good technology, I no doubt about it. Pollution free, right? But one thing you have to understand, that accessibility is one important thing we talk about in planning. All of us agree to that one. Availability also important, but I think adaptation is important. How can you expect the people to switch over from normal traditional vehicles to now suddenly to switch over to electronic vehicles? Government can impose. All government officers, we will use only the electronic vehicles. But who is the government? Only 2% of the people may be using it. But in the city, how many people are living there? How many people use the vehicle? In morning we had a lot of discussion about the traffic, pollution and everything. But that's what even the chairperson in the chief, speaker also talking about, chief guest talking about that. We are planning for rich or poor or combination. We have to see that. Anyway. So this is what one city was been imagined and prepared. You also know about the city called Amaravati. The capital, supposed to be the capital of Andhra Pradesh in the initial stage, previous government. So they come out with an idea about the concept. Still, modern thinking, but the concept is old. Navaratna. About the 9. What do you say about? Yes. So that is used there. You see that it is the sports city, it is the government city, it is the finance city, it is the tourism city, it is the health city, knowledge city, electronic city, justice city, media city. But no city today. Because the government changed, they have all disappeared. Everything is gone. Some capital is there in capital function is there in Visakhapatnam. Something is here, something is there. So who will be blamed? I don't know. Is it the planner? Very nice plan. We have been asked to consult the consultants from Singapore. We have been spending a lot of time in the initial stage of presentation because ours was the Institute of Plan, town planning. So very beautiful done, and a very nice pictures and all you can see. So you can imagine this is supposed to be the city close to Vijayawada. It's a very small town, not a big city also there, not like Chandigarh. But anyway, that's the way we look at that. But anyway, we are coming to the Sustainable Development Goal. So what I wanted to make a point is it is all really related to what one means, what makes a living complete. Who is living is complete, a rich person is living is complete when you don't know, if you have one car, if you have one more car, it is complete, or two more car. The person on the 70% of the people living in Delhi is informal settlements. The informal.
Hey there.
So what is their...
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
They access to water, they access to basic health, education.
Is the sound okay at your end?
Yes, it's okay.
So I
Can you hear me?
City emerged
Yeah, absolutely, very
as
clear
an
indeed.
evolution,
Yes, yes.
transformation over time and space, and it is
So,
one that plan towards.
I'm from Melbourne. My name is Vikram.
And plan city.
Nice to meet you.
New
So
cities.
my
Cities
name is
require
Nick
infrastructure.
Smith from
It is
LEC,
utilities
so
and
I
services
think
and
I was due to
house.
sort of present
House level.
at
As well as
3:45.
community cities. That's a neighborhood.
So yeah.
How many houses
So
in the city having
let me
access to
see.
utilities and services as a planner you know very well. The social infrastructure, the physical infrastructure. Everybody access to reach the house with vehicle, without vehicle. Electricity should be there, water should be there, drainage should come out.
So your presentation is 3:45.
So
It
city
means
planning, as I put it, like planning
they slightly
conversion
late?
cities. You see, it's a contemporary
okay.
modern city, like smart city, where cities now we're talking about everything is smart. So in terms of approach, the techniques, delivery of services, there's I put it like technology, GIS, non-spatial data, then participate. There's the people coming to that. That's why I put TDP. The technology, the data, and the people. So we experienced lockdown, unlock, closing and opening cities and towns. It's a new thing. I have experienced 2 years. So it's not a shock to close down and lock down and open it again and again. So we see reading newspapers and everything. So lockdowns, unlocks,
You know what time
closing,
it would
opening
be
cities
on?
and towns. Planners need India.
yes, please.
Institute of Town
Do you
Planners
know
need
what
India,
time
what
I will
by,
be presenting? It'll
60,000
sort of 10
planners.
minutes.
I think
How many planners
if
in the
3:45,
morning,
so
in
relatively
departments of, town
they're
planning,
behind
or
schedule.
development
My
authority,
presentation
so
last.
people cooperation.
I requested them to keep me last.
So it is the space, it's the
Mm.
people.
So my
and the
presentation
people.
4:45.
See, we have all these things.
I'm
are
trying
going on
to
now,
send
all
some
kind of
messages, but no one has responded.
much
Maybe
of
they're
development
busy.
in terms of transportation. But I see one of the illustration, I don't know if it's correct or not, but in 1962, the Italian magazine published a story about what would look like 2022 now. All individual vehicles. Everybody is going on their own vehicle. So this brings picture I always admire.
Yeah, I
because
guess
this is the way
most
you
people are
see the
probably
mobility of the
presenting
people from
in
who
person,
are
aren't they? So,
walking, cycling,
yeah.
and then transport and connection.
It's
Because
general,
fast,
the
mobility
to
in
get
terms of walking, taken away
Right.
from the people from the streets.
Yeah, I'm sure.
and now
Yeah.
put them into metros and everything. But now,
So I see your
everybody is
presentation
talking
was
about
on
cycling
water
and walking.
sensitive
I
urban
put
planning. That sounds very
the
Yes,
interesting.
graphics
yes,
into
yes.
Ulta.
I work in. I was a
That is
associate
between
professor in
the
university in Amritsar in
So
India.
it is
So I
forecasting,
left that
planning is
university
a
in
profession.
2014.
It is to
So
see
primarily I'm
what
working as
future
a planning and
will
development engineer
look like,
in a
where
local
planning
municipality
predicts
here.
what the future
I was
should
also
look
doing
like.
town planning
That should
consultancy
be
in
the vision.
Melbourne.
So it's a community,
Mm.
because
Mm.
community means people,
So
it's
my
location,
primary, actually, I did my
unity,
PhD from this university in India.
it is what
I
makes a
do join
community
some research
strong.
projects here, but then I
Community
moved
should be
to
connected to make
consultancy.
best out of the bad
Okay.
situation.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's what
Then-
happened.
Oh, well, similar to me actually in a way. I was
Ability to
I started in
every
consultancy, worked there for
community
6
take
years,
many
and then
aspects
went
into
to
whatever they
University of West of England in Bristol for 15 years, and I just only very recently moved back into consultancy now. So yeah, and it's quite nice to have that change, isn't it, every so often?
Yes.
So
So in India also primarily focusing on infrastructure planning, mostly dealing with the land development, developers and agencies, and I was more on strategic planning. So yep, my otherwise area was in globalizing cities like in India. I was more on urban policy. So how the urban policy and various global policies has like changing the spatial structure of cities.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I did mostly case studies in Punjab and other areas in relation to like other global best practices where what are the strategies they can develop. So based on that line, I'm just touching some of the areas. I think a lot of ISPER was primarily involved with. I was involved with ISPER with Kamar Sujit earlier. I used to come visit their institute. They're more involved with land development. A lot of real estate companies are there. So in Chandigarh periphery, New Delhi periphery, Gurgaon, a lot of other cities they develop in the periphery last 20, 30 years. So what I realized there is a lot of from like the best practice in the UK or even Australia or even the US. There are a lot of reforms are required at a local level. So a lot of talks on planning policy, but they are not able to deliver. So I often talk to them like ISPER is the institute where you can focus primarily because their ISPER's backbone is from the town and country planning department. So they just want. He was very did a lot of good in state development. So still we need some better examples like model examples which can be followed. So I think that's why I selected this topic primarily on this neighborhood areas.
Very interesting. Now my involvement with ISPER is via Professor Anil Kashyap from NICMA. So he was my boss when he was in the UK. So he invited me along to the session.
In a normal circumstances, how the mobility of a person from a house,
All right.
daily, weekly, and monthly,
It's
you
very
can see the
interesting.
different colors. Almost around 20 activities are taking place from the house to the other areas. The same.
What's the weather like where you are at the moment?
During the time of pandemic, it has come down to
Pardon?
only 2 mobility.
What's the weather like near where you are?
Oh
at the
yeah,
moment?
weather. It's a very different weather. Generally in December, it's the start of summer. Like during Christmas, we have a warm Christmas here, but this time it's raining heavily and it's very cold. So people say in 30 years never seen a winter like this in December.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
Yeah, interesting.
it might be very cool in UK.
Physical visit, socialization.
It is. Yeah, it is very cold actually. And the room I'm in at the moment is freezing,
Infrastructure.
but it's got -5 or 6, which is
Okay.
very cold for the UK actually.
Say, busy. in
So
the city.
my temperature was 18 degree today, but generally it's
So,
27,
the
30.
infrastructure is not in place in
The
time.
Melbourne weather is
So, the way
like
the people
a
ride.
lot of variation in a day,
Even,
10, 12 degree
taking
variation.
something from home and sitting in the bus and eating the breakfast. Also happens.
It's 18 degree now.
The mother give all the food and
Yes,
then you eat
tomorrow
all the
it will be 23, 24, 26, and 27. The last
So it's a
weekend,
challenge.
this
What I
weekend
put
will be
IRA and improve the quality
quite
of life and well-being,
Very
reduce
nice.
social problems, and enhance safe,
So which city are you
healthy, and
in
social interaction
UK?
and easy and safe mobility.
Sorry, what's
So
that?
planner
In which
comes
city
and
are you
reshape
at the
the
moment?
places and activities.
Yeah,
Key
I'm
points
in
here.
Bristol,
Earlier you
so
designed the
I'm
houses
actually
for living for
at the
dining,
university
eating,
where I used to
washing,
work,
eating,
just to
sleeping. Now we need a
as it's
place
quite
for
close to my
health, all
house,
the
so
time.
I thought I'd make the most
So
of
we
just
need some
coming
people
back up
to
to campus
design.
for a bit. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, it was, but no, it's
because
yeah, it's been quite a cold snap recently. Hopefully the
So
weather
same thing is
improves
happening in terms of your
a little bit
neighborhood
more.
public spaces.
So
You need to space
yeah,
for
we'll see
oxygen
what
plants
happens.
and vaccination camps.
Yeah.
Find a way.
I think
As a
the
public place,
planning
where you have
planning
special areas of
framework
market and
in
institutional
India as well as in
area,
Australia, what I
recreation
realize
camp.
is quite
Okay, you may ask the
based on
question,
British
is not
model.
this COVID-19
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
but now we
we
are
carry forward
learn
here.
to see how you are going to
Like
arrive at
my
providing
most of education was in India, so I
which require
taught
a
the university
reshaping
students in
planning in
India.
terms of space
So
provision.
many people ask me, I said, I think our
So
principles
planning,
are
spatial
same,
planning guide
but
with
of course
outputs
in
of
Australia
the natural
we bring
space should
some
be
more
available in the
refinement.
house because
Like
of
in
the
Melbourne every
layout of
day,
house.
whatever,
But how much
like
space
Melbourne
we
was developed
created for
during
a
British
soft
time.
surface area.
Similarly, there
Very
was a city
similar
like Bombay or
concrete.
Mumbai,
And there's no place
but
you can go
after
into
that, in
houses.
like
So we are keeping the
1947,
nature
Melbourne
away
has
from our
changed a
house.
lot
But now
based on the
the
same
device things
guidelines
are happening all
what was planned earlier.
Well,
And
happy
in
birthday,
Mumbai,
last year
what I
also,
say,
people
at the
bring
when
back nature to
Bombay
the
was
house.
planned, like one of
So
the
a
finest
street
city. If
should
you
be
see
an
the Bombay in
intermediate
British
area
time, Bombay
where
is
we
very
can walking,
different.
playing and socializing.
But
As the neighborhood should
that
be
planning
about
practice
towards
was
livelihood,
not carried forward.
recreation, shopping. Maybe the
Yeah.
Melbourne city experience
Somehow.
I've only,
city or
mm,
America talking about
So-
50
yeah,
somewhere
I came to India a couple of years ago.
So local
actually,
area.
before the
Then you have a
pandemic,
distribution
actually,
of work and transport
Okay.
in
and
cluster of
I went
localities,
to Delhi and Chandigarh, and no, really enjoyed myself actually, and no, it's a really interesting case studies I've been exposed to. So,
That's good.
Organize such a way that your mobility is reduced and then you will save a lot of time and energy.
So how are you disassociated with ISPER then? Have you ever been to ISPER, the institute?
This is the way I have seen them.
yeah, so when I was at the university, we were arranging a field trip for our students,
Okay.
and we were going to sort of do a sort of 2 center stay in Delhi and then up to Chandigarh, and ISPER were going to be sort of part of the hosting really, I guess. So the students were going to kind of be based there and do some work and do some studies there. So I went out with a few researchers from ISPER, and we just got it all kind of planned and ready to go. And unfortunately, the COVID pandemic kind of stopped, and flights and students were banned from travelling and all the rest of it. But hopefully they do return at one point, because it's a great location, and some really sort of enthusiastic and talented staff they had within the institute.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah.
Mm.
So the middle part is the house, which is only a 1 ground area.
So I think is it good exposure for the students to visit India?
But neighbors are always
Well, I think we were now able to sort of travel in sort of without the pandemic now, so that we did have quite strong restrictions. And what we were going to do, we have like a kind of expedition module, it's called, where students will go for sort of 2 weeks. So they have to sort of pay themselves for the travel and the accommodation. But it is sort of partly subsidised by the university, but it's a sort of optional trip. So yeah, I think the university is slowly getting around to rerunning sort of longer field trips outside of the UK. So
one can see how you can be
hopefully it will arise, but they were keen to, the purpose was to sort of conduct some research in around the ISPER Centre, and to kind of work in collaboration. So with the sort of research dimension, it kind of makes it kind of even more worthwhile, but there's always a risk if a trip is cancelled, it suddenly sort of puts some pressure on the students to complete their work. But no, I think it would be a a good relationship to come in. And with Professor Kashat, we had those sort of very strong links at the university.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Because I don't know whether India has very less number of planning schools or planning institutes. From Delhi, I think one of the oldest school of planning architecture in Delhi, and then the next one is the place where I used to teach is in Amritsar, which is just near the north-western border.
Okay, yeah.
Pakistan border. So that has quite old school, and a lot of even some of the students from that school is working in UK. They migrated to UK, Canada, in Australia. There were more than 30 students from that institute working in Australia. And one of the, I think, he was my colleague there. He also has visited in the morning. I was looking at the first session. Jinder Singh, he's also from Australia. So, and then recently, in last 4, 5, 7 years, there are 2 more schools. One is a private university, lovely LPU, they call it, lovely professional university in Jalandhar. And then I think 2 or 3 new institute schools in Delhi, New Delhi. One with developer, Sushant School, and then MIT University. Planning is growing, but if you see like the large cities, Mumbai, Kolkata, one of the first metropolitan city, still they don't have the planning education, the planning students.
Interesting, yeah.
There's a lot of school when I see that to provide them the inputs from a broader planning framework that how they can.
And also preparing a development plan for.
It's interesting. Students are coming from UK. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I think it's interesting. We do have quite a number of planning schools, probably with a fair spread across the UK in the geographical sense. But the numbers studying planning aren't very good, really. Generally sort of quite low numbers. Collectively quite a sizable pot, but per institution it's not a large number. Students will typically now sort of study via postgraduate, perhaps in comparison to an undergraduate route. But we in the UK we've introduced a system of degree apprenticeships, which seem to be so students can sort of study and learn in tandem, which has proven very popular. And so that should hopefully address the sort of pipeline of planners in due course. And we do have quite a lot of international students who study in the UK. And that sort of helps to kind of inflate the numbers, but unfortunately they will often want to kind of return back to their native country, to work and to live thereafter. So the numbers of the working or the numbers studying planning don't necessarily compare to those who are going to work.
Afternoon they meet in another room and they discuss about public participation.
But many Indian students are going to UK also for postgraduate studies. Many of my students have been to Sheffield, and they've been to some various other schools. 7 or 8 I know since last 7. They prefer to go to UK for studies. I believe there was Institute of Town Planning also would figure out some arrangement that like it's all the post curriculum and some students studying from UK and from abroad and how can they like very competitive degrees related to like Indian urban system or Indian requirements. They need to, because I work, I make a few projects in planning education. Before I migrated to Australia, I was involved with to set up some common agenda for all the 8 or 9 schools in India and through the Institute of Town Planning. We set up a cell where we suggest that we should make some common framework where a lot of students come from UK and other universities. They should have part the degree or their some of the post curriculum could be like it can be shared through mutual discussion.
So it is called
I think there is a lot of scope.
So
they
because
work in this
learning
area.
is lifelong process, learning by investigation, learning by
Well, I
dynamic
think so.
process.
Yeah, no, I
What
think
must
so. And
aspire
yeah, we
education
did
for
we did
life,
quite a lot of outreach
not
work
for
at the
living.
university to try and
That's what we experience.
bring more in.
So end with a positive
And I think
note. Planning
what
should
is
not be livelihood for
I
self
think some people don't quite
only,
appreciate is
but must
the
be able to
breadth
meet
of what you can do
livelihood
within plan and
opportunities for
practice,
others.
and also indeed the sort of
Planning should
ability to
be
move
for
around as
self-reliance
well.
and make planners as
I
independent
guess
thinkers and
our
collective
careers are kind of
planners.
partly
So
examples of
our
that, isn't it,
planners are not
from
given
being
a
able
chance
to
to
sort of
speak.
jump between
In any meeting,
academia
senior
and
people will
practice.
speak, junior people will rise, and then meeting is over.
How did you find that
So
transition
role of
yourself
planning is to be
from
find
practice
how to
into or from
cultivate
academia into practice?
the intellect, not just
I
prepare
think it's a very
plans,
interesting
but
question.
produce.
Personally,
We
I'm
use the
missing
word
a lot of students.
provision.
I enjoyed the
Provision.
teaching
We
system
provide
and
all these
spending a
things.
lot of
Yeah,
time
me
here.
too. Yeah, yeah.
But
So
I
there's a
think
concept
here,
between provision.
like,
Yeah, there is a provision
I have to
for
learn a
like,
lot.
a
The
role in
Australian
India.
practice
Okay,
system
they're nice
is
to
like the
plan.
detail of
So I use the
planning
word produce.
projects
Civic
is
and
quite
social services
different.
towards giving sustainable
The
living
extent of detail, what I
households.
realize, I also discussed with one of my colleagues there in India that we are
Let's make our
teaching
houses into
very
homes
general and
with
on
nature.
policy, mostly on the policy
Develop
plan.
a creative
But we
neighborhood
lack
vision.
a lot of
Our cities
inputs from
into
strategic
livable, happy
that I
cities.
learned over the last 6 or 7
So
years.
now is the time to thank the organization
Primarily
and the
when I deal
audience
with
for listening to me.
different type of projects
And end
and
with quoting
I
something
think
which I
still
like this picture and
Australian
the
planning
rose.
system is
We cannot solve
very
our
well defined,
problems
especially
with the
FTC
same
in Melbourne.
thinking we used
So
when we created the.
there is a lot of need
So think
to
differently.
Thank you very much.
understand how this system is framed. For me, the framework here is very important, especially the way the city is designed to work from a lot of planning tasks are with the municipalities. Like in India, most of the planning tasks are done at a state level. And there's a very
all aspects of
municipality.
sustainability.
And the
And the most
capacity of the
important thing
municipality
is
is
that
not
until and unless we
upgraded
think
over
about
the
people,
years.
we
If
cannot
from
make it
Australian
livable. So
environment.
livability is
So
all
it take
about
2 to 3 years to
social,
understand me
cultural,
how the various
and,
decisions are
Sir
made
has not only pleased us
in
but
community
given us
consultation
examples
along
of
with
that he's
the
practicing the
municipality
same.
level. And how the
This
inter-municipality,
is the
like some
result of
facilities which
his
are in
journey.
broader area and regional
He has
depth,
received number of
how they are
awards,
coordinated with
including
each
the
other.
Australian government
Framework
award,
that
and
is
also
very
he
well
has got in
defined,
several
which is lacking in my
capacities,
previous
including
education
in
as well as
Australia,
previous
France,
practice.
Germany, Sri Lanka, and USA.
But my understanding
And
is
that was the outcome.
it will,
And we were really
if from
benefited
academic,
by
if
your
come to
presentation,
like
sir.
start
Thank you very
consultancy
much.
and practice, so it bring more
Now I
refinement into
invite
teaching.
our
That's what I for the teachers there. They should also
second
directly
presenter,
involve it from
Dr.
the
Ayan
teaching. And
Chakravarti.
similarly, I talk in ISPER,
So,
like
the another
Jaswant,
aspect
who
of
is now chairing
sustainability
this
is
ISPER
construction,
institute.
because
You
as
spend a
we
lot
have
of
been
time
discussing that the
in
construction
planning
industry
practice.
is
Once you
consuming a lot and lot of energy,
Europe will be
and
much
most of the
better.
solutions also we are seeking from the
Yeah.
construction industry only. So Dr. Ayan Chakravarti is Associate Professor
As in,
in Project Management with Institute of
it's
Innovation,
interesting.
Science
I
and
don't think
Sustainability,
many of the UK
University of Perth, Australia.
opt to work internationally. It's
And
something
he
which
has again a
we
very
have
wide
quite a few
experience
questions
of
that they can
research,
do it, but they
and
never
his
really
research
sort of
interests are
followed
area
their
of
wish in a
sustainable
way.
development,
I'm
circular
not necessarily sure
economy,
what the barriers are to that really.
specifically in
Maybe
micro,
I
small
guess
and medium
in some cases
enterprises
language,
and operational excellence. And he has done his PhD from National University of Singapore, and also he has worked as postdoctoral research fellow in Queensland University, Australia. Sir, sir. When I was sitting at the back, I was wondering that from where these people are, like how they are sitting here. Then I saw that there is one screen, and this is not for me but for my fellow presenters. Then there is a clock also next to this screen.
Hi there, I don't know if anyone can hear me. This is Nick Smith, speaker 10.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So yes, after Mr. Radak has done an excellent presentation, I think all of us are awake now. Yes. And I promise you that I'll not take more than 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. So that I'll give other presenters enough time to present, and you can also ask me any question. And why I'll do that, I'll tell that reason also. First of all, thank you very much to KSS-ISPER, right? That's how I think to call this institute, as well as to Dr. Singh ji, because with him I've been interacting for quite some time. So since I'm in India now, so he asked me to come here. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So I definitely like it. And another thing I really liked is that my presentation, also thanks for keeping it in the afternoon. Why so? Because I came to know that Professor Harjit Singh is there, and he presented from the Melbourne, and he is a city planner. I am not a city planner anyway. So if any questions you have, I will email to him. Okay, I know whom to contact. So that's a good thing for me. So that's why a lot of positives. I'll always talk about the positive things. So these are some of the positive things I've seen from morning. So now with my presentation, since my introduction is already given, so I'll not tell much on that, but just I'll highlight, as I've told, I'm not into civil engineer. I'm an industrial engineer by background, and I totally work in a very different areas like project management, process improvement, Lean Six Sigma. I'm not sure if you have heard about. So if you have not, so these are more on. So process and sustainability and circular economy is one area which brought me into this platform, and that's probably where I'd like to discuss some of these things. And again, I'll really thank Professor Harjit Singh, because he what he presented today and where he's ended, probably from where my presentation actually began. Because he talked about the city planning, and I'll talk about the housing part. He talked about the ratings, different ratings he spoke about in his last slide, if you have still remember that. So today in my presentation, I'll just touch upon those star ratings, and so I'll show you some examples of that. So that is my today's presentation will contain. Okay, so before we go, I think from morning we have heard about much about sustainability and city planning and so on, but probably for sustainability, I'll just to refresh our memory what sustainability is. I'll go by this UN's definition, and again, I'll not read the definition here. It's more about, it is without compromising, that it is that we meet the current needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet the need. So whatever we are doing today, what we are talking about sustainability and circular economy today, is not about today only. It's about future. Okay. Recently, I think yesterday I was in a forum where, again, in one of the student, there are many MBA students. One of the MBA student asked, see, we are hearing all this sustainability, all this climate change, and any other things will happen in century, in 100 years, or maybe beyond that. Why we should bother about it today? We are okay. Why we take 100 years? What will happen in 100 years? So the simple answer is, we take small steps today. Okay, as to see that that the future generations don't face those problems what we are already seeing those problems. So we are just trying to solve some of those problems. trying that, and that is the first step we are taking today. So before I talk about this sustainability, so in construction, if we talk about, it is mostly about the life cycle assessment. Okay, in sustainability, we do the life cycle assessment of things. What about in this, again, I'll not go through the whole cycle here, and because probably the visibility is not very here. What it talks about, the first stage is about the product, second is about construction, third is about use, and fourth is about end of life. Okay, so if we take one example in the product, in construction industry, let's take the example of steel. So we take iron ore as a raw material, process it as a steel, put it in the construction, use it, and then again in the end of life. So again, we extract the steel, and how do we use it? So there is a lot of discussion going on currently in construction, how to reuse, refurbish, remanufacture this construction material in circular economy, in sustainability way. Okay, so this is that's where this life cycle assessment comes in. So all of you are experts in civil engineering, so you might take any other example of your material and see how you can start extracting the raw material and take it to the end of life. You don't end it there, reuse it again. That's what will take us to the circular economy context. Okay, so when we talk about construction impacts, environmental impacts, yes, here I'm highlighting a couple of those, but there might be many more. Of course, one is depletion of natural resources like the raw materials, as well as soil loss and degradation, pollution of land, air, and from morning we have seen several presentations to see and understand where this pollution is happening in land, air, and so on. So I think I don't have to elaborate on this one. And what is driving this? One is, of course, the livability. And everywhere, I think in India, in Australia, everywhere, it is the real estate specialists. They will build up all these nice complexes. And then they will say, this is the best place where you will find green and everything, where you will have playgrounds for your kids and so on. And we all go there, and after that it becomes a concrete jungle and no greenery there. Okay, in Kolkata I stay in a complex called Greenfield City. There is nothing green there. Okay, so but we should think about these constructions more about get them more livable space, healthier, more comfortable homes and workplaces. Okay, increasing energy prices, all of us everywhere, we know that how the petrol prices, electricity prices, energy prices, gas prices are increasing. So with this, how we are going to see that develop those houses, develop those buildings where we can have better kind of what I'll suggest is here, how to better manage those houses in a way so that we also become sustainable. Okay, that's where I'll talk about the ratings. I'll elaborate on this a bit more on the rating part, where you will see why these ratings are increasing to make it more energy efficient houses. So we use those energy sources more efficiently. Then new markets, as well as potential and improved investment returns. These are the some markets we are seeing. New cities are getting born, right? New places, cities are expanding. If I talk about Melbourne, Melbourne has increased from like anything. If you travel from CBD to the western end of Melbourne, it will take you almost 2 hours. And I think can be said for Delhi, Calcutta, Hyderabad, any bigger cities here. If you talk from central to where you are going to. So this is one of the buildings. This is a ANZ building, Australia New Zealand Bank, ANZ building in Docklands, Melbourne. So this building is a kind of showcase that how sustainable buildings can be constructed. So it has solar power. It used to have wind turbines also to generate power, but because of vibration. So later on they have removed the wind turbines from the roof. Okay. Now, but it is solar power, all other things, all sustainable practices, they have come up who are following this. So these are all sprawling, and this single building has insurance banking, and other all facilities of the ANZ Bank here. So that's where now I'll probably connect here with what Professor Harjit Singh has mentioned in the morning. So that's where deemed to satisfy the rules of regulations here. So one of course the NCC, that National Construction Council, their requirements are there, like in any country. In Australia also they have. Then also there is another NAIDERS, that is what he has also mentioned, nationwide house energy rating scheme modeling, and that's where the star rating came in. So now if you are building a house in Australia, it has to minimum have, the house minimum has to have 7-star rating. Okay, so earlier, just few months back, it used to be 6-star, now it has to be 7-star rating. How that happens, I'll just talk about in few slides. So performance solutions and engaging, so sometimes you have to, how it is, so everything is consultant based, nothing is done by yourself. You just you say that yes, we need to build a house, 7-star rating, so developer will build it and they will go to the consultant and see whether it is 7-star or not, it's matching the requirements or not. Okay, so for a 7-star, you can see this is what, so of course here they do a computer simulation that estimates the energy use. So it might orientation, whether it is your sun is coming directly at your door, is it a north facing, east facing, south facing, how your house is facing, how much sunlight it will get. Okay, then zoning, when you are heating the house, because there the winter is severe, so you have all the houses are heating systems. So heating system means if you try to heat the whole house in a single go, it might take a lot of energy, because you might be spending what the observation is, most of the time people spend their most of the time the people spend in the house is in the living room. Only in bedroom you go into the night or some other time, not. And similarly most so, and in Australia the houses are more like kitchen and living room are almost in the same space, so that is the space mostly used. So they do a zoning, so kitchen and living room will have one zone, bedrooms will have a second zone. So this zoning system helps to have a better utilization of heating system. Okay, so like this zoning, so how many zones the house has, design, ventilation, insulation, glazing, then windows will have different type of glazing. Earlier it used to be single glazed, now it is double glazed. So that much, how much sun, when the sunlight say if your house is your windows are facing the sun, it's a east facing sun, so you might early morning you might be getting most of the sun rays here, it will heat the house. So how you are going to balance that heat energy? Again, I'm explaining a bit more. I know probably most of the things you are aware of all this, but still this is a learning for me, because while making this presentation, I thought, okay, I could have presented a circular economy and small and medium enterprises, but I thought let me try a bit more uncomfortable zone for me. Hope I'm making sense here. Okay, so next for this one, how to increase this. So there are a lot of things that how you can go from 6-star to 7-star. So higher window and door glazing. Similarly, the glazings, you increase the ceilings and so on. So these are just different ways you can do this. Okay, so then so energy, so difference between there are different types of buildings constructions are there. So again, where you can use different hot water systems. Nowadays, people are trying to remove totally the gas system. They are saying we'll go everything through electricity, electrical heating, electrical cooking, everything, because gas energy prices are going very high. And the projection is in Australia that in future gas prices are going to be very high. So more and more new house that they are building, they are planning to have whole of electricity operated appliances, not any gas operated appliance. Only future will tell whether it is a right or wrong move. Okay, so this is as we said that there is a green star rating. So there are different scorecards in Australia. So one is green star rating. So green star rating talks about whether it is a 6-star, 7-star, and so on. So this is one. Okay, so this is one building. So this is what one building in Dandenong, which is a 6-star green star rating, and they call it by build. because while designing, they have designed it for 6-star, and then when they built it, as a 6-star rating only. So it's not like they designed for 6-star and they built it as a 4-star. No. So by build also it is a 6-star energy building. Okay. So there are different rating tools for office. Of course, you cannot have same rating tools for everybody. So there is for office multiple multi-unit residential area, educational institute. There are different ratings tools for all these different kind of. So how are you going to management? What type of material you are going to use in the build? Because there are mostly in Australia there are two types. One is wooden buildings or steel. These are the two things that are mostly used. So what type of material you are using, that will make it. Then in indoor environmental quality based on zoning, water efficiency, how water efficient, because there is a, now the council has come up with a new rule that you have to, you cannot garden your water garden you can do the no, you cannot use the water, tap water, the corporation water for gardening. You have to have a rainwater tank, and rainwater tank water can only be used for gardening or even for car washing. Okay, so you cannot, so every house will have a rainwater tank separately, where whenever it rains, all the water goes there, and that tank water you can use for gardening or washing your car or any other things. Okay, even for your toilet flush and all, you have to use that. So other than Green Star, there are different other rating systems also. So National Australian Building Environment Rating Scheme, Built Environment Sustainability Scorecard, and Measurement of Health and Well-being. This is one of the new one, to see that if you are building a house or building an office, how that office is going to help the employees keeping their health and well-being. Whether it has enough balcony openings so that the people can go out and take a walk, whether enough light is coming for all the employees to get. Okay, so different things they have to do. So this is a new one, measuring of health and well-being. So some of these case studies. So this is another building. Again, it is in Melbourne. So it has got, see, it has got 6-star Green Star as well as 5.5-star neighbors rating as well as well platinum rating. So it is one of the highest rated building there. Okay. Similarly, this one, this building is again, it has a wind turbine. I'm not sure whether they have removed it yet or not, because again they have the similar problem, because wind turbines has that same problem. Many buildings are now trying to use wind turbines, but the major problem is the vibration and noise, these two. So, and this colorful things what you are seeing here, it's all made with the recycled material. Nothing is raw material here. Recycled material, it helps to keep the environment or the temperature inside the house according to the weather in a proper sense, so get proper shading and so on. Okay, so this building again is a 6-star Green Star rated building. Then this is again it is in the Dandenong area in Melbourne. So it's again there is a level crossing where he has talked about, I think Professor Harjinder, he talked about the level crossings, that now they have to remove all the level crossings. So there are a lot of this kind of level crossing removal projects. So overhead bridges are coming up. So they also have 50-year design life and so on. So they are also following a lot of these ratings. So some of the commercial examples I have shown. Now these are some of the built examples, residential complexes also. So this is a 8-star. So we already have, and this has got 8-star before 7-star even came into existence. Okay, so before that it has got, this residential complex has got, and it is a sustainable, because all the materials used in this house is from sustainable material, from the recycled or reused or remanufactured material. Nothing is in this house is used is a raw material. Okay, so more and more, though I'll say that this kind of houses, sustainable houses, still are not too much into applicability, because one thing is they are still a bit costly to manufacture, to build. Okay, but slowly the push is to get this kind of buildings more in. So going forward, there are a lot of different mega trends that are coming up, and I think you are all an expert here, so I don't have to elaborate. But yes, we are talking about the big data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and so on. So all these things are going to be there. And the skills, another thing is the skills shortage, because now one of the major concern is, yes, the technology advancements are coming up, but who are going to work in these technologies and going to build the houses? That skill is still missing. We don't have many people who are aware of what is actually artificial intelligence, how to use the robotics properly, how to use machine learning in construction industry. So that is a skill gap we need to focus on. So these are the trends. So focusing on one thing is of course energy efficiency. Another is building information management system. So it is a kind of holistic software system which will give you everything about from starting from the planning to the final construction stage and maintenance stage. Then there is of course prefabrications. Like nowadays, I'm not sure about in India whether it started yet, but in Australia I've seen it that already the components are manufactured, already prepared. When build a house, you just build in modular design. You just put it in there and build a whole house. You don't. It will not take much time to build it. So prefabrication, 3D printing. It still is a bit way off, but slowly it's going to be a kind of reality. So future trends. So what does this mean for construction? So what we are hoping for, we'll have better build quality, less waste. That's where the circular economy and sustainability will come in. More cost certainty on estimates, because nowadays the main point is when you start talking about building, after some time, no material is not available. So the cost will go up or something else will happen. So that's where the more cost uncertainty is there. So that's a way we should look at. Another is faster build, increasing the turnover. So the modular designs, 3D printing, which will help us to have a faster building of houses and commercial complexes, and new jobs and roles. I think whenever we talk about technology, we always say that it will take out the roles of human. But it's not like that. Every time a new technology comes, new jobs and new roles are going to be there according to the technology. So with these thoughts, I'll stop it here. Thank you very much. I hope I have not taken much time, right? So 25 minutes लिया 10 मिनट ज़्यादा हो गया कोई बात नहीं. Sorry about that from my side. Okay, no worries. Thank you very much.
But you are rating India international Melbourne, no? That's also. In fact, if you study the Indian rating system, you know they are already far advanced than what we are. There are already 5 rating systems.
Okay, I think the next presentation is in virtual mode.
Yes. Yeah.
Next presentation is actually a recorded version.
Okay, okay. So next presentation is a recorded version of Ms. Anupam Khajuria. And Ms. Anupam Khajuria, she joined United Nations Center for Regional Development and working here as a researcher.
Giving me this opportunity to talk about today's
meeting.
And on behalf of UNCRD, thank you.
Yes,
Please.
I will request that after this recorded version is presented, I will request Ayon to give a small comment on that, because she's going to talk on circular economy.
Yes, yes.
And he will, as a matter of fact, give a couple of minutes brief comment on that. Sure. That's an area where they are working in Australia. They are also working.
Yes, I think you can read it.
Hello everyone, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about today's meeting, today's seminar. And on behalf of UNCRD, thank you very much for considering UNCRD as a supporting organization in this seminar. Before getting start my presentation, I would like to thank Dr. Jaswant Singh and Dr. Kawan Singh for giving me an understanding that I am not traveling during this mission, during this seminar, so I am giving a video recording of my today's presentation. So thank you very much, and let's start my presentation. So today's topic of my presentation is how circular economy helps to achieve the new urban agenda. Because we are talking about circular economy separate and we are talking about new urban agenda, but in this presentation slides, I am going to show how circular economy helps to achieve new urban agenda according to the including the other global agendas. I'm showing some examples from particularly from Japan. So let's start with that. In my presentations, second slide is about let's talk what is understanding of the circular economy. In this slide, you can see I am going to show the first talk about the linear economy, which we are using that straight raw material from the virgin extract the raw material and dealing it and to make it in the product. And after the product, we use that product, and at the last stage, energy goes to the downscaling because we are putting in the landfill and we are just put on a negative impact on our environment. So in order to reduce that negative impact of the environment, we are using the circular economy approach. Basically, circular economy, I'm not going into the more expanded definition, but I'm giving you a very small, brief understanding of circular economy where we can extract the raw material and we can redesign the product. First, we can design the product and we can manufacture, production, consumption, and we can use it. But instead of putting the product in the waste material, we can redesign that product and we can almost put that no residual waste at a last stage. But even in this way, you can see the residual waste rate is almost zero to the in comparison to the linear circular economy. So the circular linear economy. So the circular economy is basically a closed loop of all the products where is nothing going to be the waste. The next is I'm showing how its effect, what's the positive points of circular economy in not only the loop part. First, it had to the cost reduction from in the case of energy as well as in the case of material. And second, it puts the negative impact, it puts the not the negative impact of the environmental on like basically on the energy consumption part or on the waste. So we don't need to dig more raw material, and it helps to allow the new technology and new innovation methods which were using by the private sector or the cooperation with the government sector, so it's like a PPP sector, and also it helps to changing the consumption pattern by the consumers' behavior. Because now, where we can make our more lifestyle more sustainable and more resilient. So the circular economy is really important to understanding. It helps to gain the four main points. So why we are talking about circular economy? Because in the first slide, I showed about the linear approach, how comparison with the circular economy, and what's the four main factors of the benefits. Here I'm showing you about the three main circles. First one is the sustainable production, consumption, and upscaling. Here in the sustainable production part, where we can contribute to the minimize the environmental impact and helps to conserve natural resources as an energy. In the circular consumption, which helps to contribute to the use of the material product and energy in such a way that we can use the minimize the impact on the environment, and also helps to contribute towards the low carbon and green economies. And in the upscaling part, where the waste is from the other industries can be valuable to the other industries. So it's like industrial symbiosis. So nothing will go to the landfill. So these three circles are very much important for the loop. Whereas the sustainable production and sustainable consumption, they have the inner loop, which helps to reduce the waste. Next one. Why circular economy, how circular economy leads to the other sectors. There are various topics there to highlight which appears as a circular economy. The first one, the key challenge is to reduce the large amount of waste. and which led to the circular economy, which is really, if we use circular economy, we don't have large amount of waste. Second, damage of the natural resources. If there is a damage in the natural resources, it can definitely raise a negative impact on the environment. So, in order to reduce this negative impact on the environment, we can use the circular economy. And the third point, creation of circular economy helps to understand the more material resources flow and the more material circular business models. So here there is a key points where we can think about the importance of circular economy. How the form of the material and the product flows. Here is the first point, we can see the material extraction, then for the material production, then manufacturing, transport, scaling, and use of that product. But after the use, it's not going to be the outside of the waste, it's again to the material extraction part that can be reused again the part. So basically the inner circle produce the product can be reused and create the loop back to the distribution case and provide a skill lifetime of product. Even not even the second, even maybe the third or fourth lifetime of that product, we can use again that products. Next is that there are various opportunities of resource efficiency of the economy, which helps to create and increase the jobs, which helps to make the understanding of innovative business models, as well as the new industrial symbiosis models, and it helps to understand no dependent on the virgin raw material. So we can use the product again and again by the redesigning of the product. And the last, it is very important to reduce the negative impact on the environment, which makes our cities and communities more sustainable and more resilient. But circular economy is the main important which can reflect to the industry 4.0. So why we are talking about industry 4.0 or industry transformation? First, we had industry 1.0 where we used steam power engines. Second, we have electrical energy in the second industry. And the third, we talk about the computers and automation. But the industry 4.0 is basically on the networking of the computer, cloud computing, as well as the Internet of Things, which are more powerful to understanding with the circular economy approach. Here you can see the industry Internet of Things or industry 4.0. It's exponentially increasing since 2004, and it's more increased in 2020 due to the impact of the COVID-19. Where we use most of the activities on the Internet of Things, and where we use a lot of Internet of Things and Industry 4.0 tools and their applications in our daily life as well as in our lifestyle patterns. So Industry 4.0, it's very important to understanding how we can achieve the smart cities or communities. Here in this figure, you can see that Industry 4.0 is basically linked with the physical as well as the virtual interconnecting, which is based on the existing technologies and information system of the technologies. So one city can be sustainable by using this technology and contribute to the circular economy part. IoT only serves to build the more resilient sustainable, not only in the case of the transport or urban planning, but here you can see the first part is about the waste management sector, because for the building a sustainable city, the water is one of the most important part. So more sustainable and the safe drinking water is important. Transportation is important. Clean energy and environment is important. And waste reduction is important. So it helps to manage our power resource, our waste management resources, resource efficiency, and planning. And what is the synergy between circular economy and Industry 4.0? In this energy, you can see it helps to generate increased wealth, whereas the green products are less toxic and we can reuse it for the more lifetime products. And it helps to extend the lifetime through the better services by the remanufacturing intensified use of the products. And it helps to minimize the waste by the end-of-life product and reduce the impact on the environment by cleaning our production and less resource use. That is a main point, which helps to make our coherence between the circular economy and Industry 4.0, which mainly leads to the focus on the overall promotion of the environment sustainability through the implementation of technologies for the benefit of circular economy that could lead to achieve the path of sustainability. So basically, what is the definition of smart city in our new urban agenda? In 66 number, we can see that circular economy, smart city defined as the use of the digitalization, clean energy and technology, and support as the innovative transport technologies. So here, digitalization which responds to the Industry 4.0. Clean energy and technology it can be achieved by using the circular economy, and innovative transport technology, it helps with the IoT method and AI technologies. So with the clean energy, we can use about the nature-based solutions. So we have to understand the meaning of the digitalization or clean energy or technologies by the supporting of the industry. So new urban agenda is very much reflecting to the sustainable development model, that is 2030 agenda for the sustainable development. Because when we talk about the circular economy, we think most of the part of the waste, but it's not only the waste, it helps in the urban planning, it helps to understand the transportation system. So this 2030 agenda and new urban agenda, they have the three main common commitments. That first one is leaving no one behind against the poverty. Second is the urban prosperity and opportunities for all, and third one is the resilient cities and settlement. So let me go to the next slide to understand how is the interlinkage between the 2030 agenda and the new urban agenda. Both are interlinked and complementary each other. Both have such common principle that is no one left behind. And the third part, all of the SDG goals are made for the urban implications. So it's not only we can say that we have to achieve urban agenda, but we are not thinking about SDGs. That's not possible because it's complement to each other. And it's important to achieve more resilient and safe and sustainable cities. So here I am showing how 2030 agenda, especially goal number 11, here it can show the 2011 goal can reflect to the other goals. For example, like goal number 1, poverty, goal number 6, that is clean water and sanitation, where is the clean drinking water and toilet facilities are for all. And then like climate action, there is the resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-related disasters and the natural disaster in alternatives. Here you can see I didn't show about the SDG 12 because it's common understanding that SDG 12 with the waste management is most important to make the city more sustainable and promotes. Here is a linkage not only with the SDG and new urban agenda, there are some other agendas also linked with each other. For example, this new urban agenda is linked with SDGs, with the common agenda, common goal is that leaving no one behind. And another one is the Sendai framework. That is also one of the common agenda related to the disaster management sector. This Sendai framework for the disaster risk reduction 2015 to 2030. And the next one is the Paris Agreement. So these all four are global agendas are interlinked with each other. I'm here showing you some examples how in case of India, how AI, artificial intelligence, or Industry 4.0 contribute. First is talk about the Swachh Bharat mission or Clean India mission, which can help to eliminate the open desertification and improve the waste management system, or basically have the resource efficiency part. And the second is about the Skill India campaign, they can train the people in different skills by launched in 2015 and it will target by the 2022. And the next one is Digital India, which is launched to ensure that improve the to improve the online infrastructure and internet connectivity in India. And the last part is about the Make in India, where we can encourage the private sector to manufacture and intensify their product in the manufacturing system, basically. So in all parts, AI in Industry 4.0 is most important. And Industry 4.0 can be initiated by the circular economy. The next part is there are many initiatives across India about the smart cities, we can say, or resilient cities, or sustainable cities, sometimes eco-town cities are announced across Asia. The first here I'm showing about in India with 100 smart cities that underscore the importance of effective and central coordination mechanism to provide sustainable and robust infrastructure system in the cities. Second is the ASEAN Smart City Networking, which can platform 25 ASEAN cities network. And the third one is about the Japan. There is one principal focus on the Society 5.0. In Society 5.0, there is a core is to promoting smart cities which can use digital technologies built by the humanology. So it's not a standard society where while involving the social issues and achieving the economic development. So basically, Japan based on the wealth of the experience and know-how with an openness and transparency as the central principle. Where then aims to build the smart cities where all citizens and business partners can participate. So here I am showing about the smart cities that then are global issue solving such as SDGs through the Society 5.0. So Society 5.0 can involve these 5 main factors, that is mobility, nature, energy, safe and security, and recycling. So by involving these 5 factors, the 3 main ingredients are important. The first one is the eco-city that involves the environmentally symbiotic cities. And the next one is the third, that is transit-oriented development. And the third one is the building resilient cities, or resilient cities, we can say. So basically, these are smart cities, or we can say the sustainable region that can be achievable by incorporating infrastructure, information technologies, and other technologies to solve the various problems and challenges that is facing and managing through itself by the planning, development, management, operation for its all overall optimizations. Next is the case of Japan, how we can move forward to build the human-centered society, that is Society 5.0, that can be achieved both for the resolutions of the social issues and economic development by adding digital transformation to the strength of conventional human infrastructure development. The first part is the IoT. IoT helps to contribute the efficiency of industry and provide information in the real time. And the second part is the big data management, because in the AI, it can help to manage the big data in the short period of time. And the third one is the biometric. We can have this new service by using the automatic bus fare payment, or once in that we can recharge the cards based on the transportation system. And the fourth part is the automated driving, which can help in the local public transportation, ensuring the human error, eliminating the human error, and ensuring the safety. So these 4 points are important to build society. So until now, I showed understanding of circular economy and the synergies in the circular economy and Society 5.0. So how we can achieve the smart cities, new urban agenda, smart cities and resilient cities, or SDG 11. So basically the main way forward section of my presentation is towards the circular economy or circular society can be achieved through the sustainable urban development. This is the transition of circular economy cannot be achieved without alignment with the traditional boundaries such as technical, social, economic, behavior, educational awareness. This alignment is continues to occur across individual consumers, manufacturers, business firms across in the industrial parts or boundaries into cities, regions, and societies, while recognizing the systematic interconnections between them. So this transformation is sustainable urban development. On the last, I'm showing you here the 2030 agenda with a deep integrated pillar for the sustainable development, not only the sustainable development goal SDG 11, also the new urban agenda. The first one is the economic development, which can sustain, help to the sustainable and business must be profitable. Social development, where that the sustainable social license, including employees and the stakeholders. And the third part is environmental protection that can focus on the reducing carbon footprint and zero waste initiatives. So with this background, or we can say that towards achieving the new urban agenda with the help of circular economy, we are our activities of UNCRD have one most important activity, that is the planning for the forums. So this regional 3R forum is we started since 2009, and I'm here to show you the pathway how the forum goes. So the second we had in Malaysia in 2010, and we had some declarations, like in first forum we had Tokyo 3R declaration, then in third Singapore declaration, and the fourth one is most important one is Vietnam 3R declaration, Hanoi declaration. This Hanoi declaration is going to get expired next year, and we are planning to extend this new meeting declaration by with the goals of the 2030 agenda for the sustainable development. And previously we had, because of the COVID-19, we had online webinar last year in 2020. And this year we are planning to conduct a forum at the beginning of next year. And that is the main targeting about integrating major development sectors to achieve through the SDGs and circular economy societies. Most welcoming to everyone to please participate in our forum, and it's going to be the 11th regional 3R and circular economy forum in Asia and the Pacific in 2023. The date is from 8 to 10 February 2023 in Cambodia. So thank you very much. And in the last, about the circular economy, and SDGs. So thank you very much for your kind cooperation and understanding for giving me the opportunity for the video recording. And if there is any question, suggestion or comments, please send me an email on the above address. Thank you very much. Hello everyone. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Now I request Dr. Aryan Chakraborty.
Today's seminar.
Okay, I think this presentation started very well. It started with what actually, why the concept of circular economy came from and how it came from the linear economy. So that beginning was very well explained, and I think that's where probably actually help us to understand how circular economy can help us. So I can see in this presentation there are three things that is discussed. One is the circular economy part, then connecting it with the technology, where she talked about the industry 4.0. So industry 4.0, also in my presentation we talked about that artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT. So all these things is brought up here, and then connecting with smart society, cities and smart societies. And that's where I feel this is important for circular economy to play a bigger part here, because circular economy can play a bigger part in water management and waste management. To give an example, currently I'm involved in one of the master's project where one of the students, she is actually working, one of the council has given us a job, they have provided a fund also, because till now we have 3 bin system. One is of course the general waste, another is recyclable waste, third one is the plastic, and fourth one they are planning. Accordingly, they have to keep the bin outside. So this is a project we are talking about, but the main purpose here, the council focusing on that, what she was talking about, the circular economy principle. So now, what will if we really go forward with this, how it will help? Of course, it will help. One is recycling the glass, because glass material is now being used in many construction, pavement, road, everywhere this glass is using, crushed glasses. So once the council collects this glass, how it will help? One is, of course, recycling or reusing the material. Another is society. She talked about society, employment generation. New business models coming up. So you can see that simple, if we take one example here, how much it will help. And if we talk about IoT or technology here, how each of these we can track through different systems. So I can see a value in this, what she talked about in the circular economy. We just have to take one proof.
So our next presentation is by Mr. Nick Smith. He is Associate Planner and Land Use Consultant at UK.
Hello there, good to see you all here. Thank you for listening to my talk. So let me just present my screen here, and you should hopefully be able to see my slides, he says. Can you see my presentation now? Hopefully you can see a green slide at the moment from my presentation. Is that correct?
Now it is visible. Yes. Very good afternoon.
Can you see it now? Can you?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so my name is Nick Smith. I'm an associate planner at a company called LUC in the UK. I'm currently sat at my desk in a very cold Bristol at the moment. So I was looking at the weather currently where you are, and I was quite jealous at how pleasant it looks with yourselves. So my focus in my talk was very much looking at the new urban agenda, but also with a particular slant on the assessment of plans and projects. And this is sort of something which aligns very much to my career to date, but also linking to a research project I'm currently engaged with. So in terms of my history, I have been a chartered town planner for over 20 years. Initially, that was started in consultancy. I then moved to the University of the West of England, where I led the planning school for 15 years. And I've recently joined, as I said, a company called LUC. And LUC is a consultancy which has been long running. It has over 260 staff. It has worked on over 10,000 projects and has offices scattered across the UK. Now, in terms of my role, I'm very much involved with our strategic planning and assessment area of work. And in short, this sort of covers a range of assessment projects for public, private clients, together with those in the voluntary sector as well. Alongside that, we also kind of offer services in landscape plan design, landscape management, related to historic environment. And we've got a great reputation. Last week we were nominated or won Planning Consultancy of the Year in the UK, which was a great commendation. So have a look at our website if you want to find out more about ourselves. But as I said, a lot of the work which I do in practice, but also what I was working on at the university, was around this assessment and the mitigating of impacts. So in my teaching, I would focus around how to make plans sustainable. Elsewhere in my teaching, I would be looking at how major projects can be made sustainable and their impacts appropriately mitigated against. Now, I appreciate the slide may be a little bit small from where you're watching it from, but this slide has a multitude of acronyms. Some of these may be familiar to you, some of them less so. I guess the one which is probably most common is EIA, or Environmental Impact Assessment, which is very much about the assessment of a project, predicting the impacts against arising from a project against a thoroughly reviewed kind of baseline, which kind of captures information, for instance, around the population, the health of the population, biodiversity, land, soil, water, climate, a wide range of environmental topics. And ultimately, the goal of that is to ensure that those projects can avoid creating negative impacts, but more importantly, is how those projects can be designed to generate more positive impacts. So just simply, for instance, if there's a concern about the level of car generation which may come from a project, one way EIA can step in is, for instance, to identify the role for investing in green and active transport, or designing the scheme in a way which discourages car use as much as possible. The other one, which may be familiar to you, is SEA, or Strategic Environmental Assessment, which is very much about looking at the same sort of type of issues, but in the context of a plan. Now, going back to the new urban agenda, clearly this has been a sort of topic through the bulk of your day kind of thus far, and it clearly outlines the type of places which we should be aiming for, and the type of kind of principles that new urban form should take. Now, just because I've been doing this work around the assessment, I did look at this in the context of that word assessment. I was quite surprised actually that the word only appears 6 times during the course of the document. And this is one kind of quote, paragraph 65, which does refer to assessment in part, but it does seem to kind of give a little bit more weight to the assessment of sort of disaster risk in comparison to the more broader environmental dimensions which I mentioned a moment ago. That said, I guess that is somewhat surprising, given that there is now a kind of significant level of assessment activity across the world, both in its sort of project scale in the form of environmental impact assessment, or EIA, but also around the assessment of plans, policies and programs via SEA. And the International Association for Impact Assessment is a great example, kind of showing how practice has been extended and being rolled out across the world. Now, at LUC, we become involved in kind of both parts of that assessment kind of family, you might call it. So we do elements of work around the assessment of plans. And this aerial photograph on the screen here shows the city of Cambridge. I was trying to think of a place where people would be familiar with in the UK, and Cambridge University hopefully has that transferability that you know where I'm talking about. But this plan here, our appraisal was looking at how Cambridge would be able to grow in the future, identifying constraints and identifying the kind of the options and the preferred strategy for ensuring that happens with the least amount of environmental risk. And typically with such an assessment, it starts off by creating a list of bullets and objectives in terms of how we want to see that area move forward. And then the use of a sort of scoring system or analysis tool to essentially kind of map those different principles or objectives against the policy, the plan. So this policy here in the Cambridge plan was very much around cycle parking and the promotion of cycling. And you can see in that table, there's a range of kind of pluses and minus, well, not minuses actually, but pluses or double pluses, where the policy is seen to be in support of that objective. So, in this sense, you can see that there are a couple of green pluses which show that the policy works particularly well. And in that situation, it may be about trying to think about how the plan can make those strengths even stronger. Equally, where there are minuses, maybe it's about trying to, well, maybe it is about trying to identify how those minuses can be removed and to be brought back into a positive dimension. So with any kind of plan, you'll see sort of typical scoring systems like this. And this is sort of fed back in the forms on a kind of ongoing basis, the plan making process. There's also, though, particularly in the UK, a whole range of other type of assessment tools in place as well. So from the London Borough of Wandsworth, we have health impact assessment, which looks at how the plan is influencing health outcomes across the borough and analysing every policy to see whether it will be positive for health or not. A more recent area of work is focused around quality impact assessment, where this is looking at the impact of a plan's policies in relation to what we call in the UK protected characteristics. So saying, for instance, exploring whether a particular policy for a town centre generates any kind of negative or indeed positive impacts to a range of personal characteristics such as age, disability, sex, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, and gender reassignment. So there are a range of kind of areas where a policy is being examined. And say, for instance, a policy is being deemed to be overly dismissive of elderly residents, then there's an opportunity for that policy to be removed. There's also elements, though, around the assessment of projects. And again, this is one example of our wind farm scheme we've been looking at, which obviously here the impacts are much more sort of focused around that scheme, but nevertheless, it's something which is designed to have the same kind of conclusions, i.e. we want to make the project kind of better. Now, in terms of over that block of time, these EIA and SEA assessment systems have been developed. There's a lot of focus, though, around how effective they are or not. This obviously, when you think about how you can kind of provide general conclusions of effectiveness, it's quite difficult when you think about how each assessment will vary depending on its location, the nature of the development, the type of jurisdictions involved. But there has been some work done which has sort of helped to gauge that assessment effectiveness on the basis of procedures. So for instance, if there is a prescribed system of undertaking EIA, is it working as intended? There's another one in relation to substantive. So is it ultimately generating any kind of real strong impacts on the ground? Other areas in relation to transactive effectiveness, is it basically worth the time, the money to undertake that assessment for what it delivers? And then lastly, this idea of legitimacy. So even once an assessment is undertaken, how robust is its findings accepted? Do people kind of value what comes out the other end and take that knowledge on? Now, in terms of at the moment, there is a fair amount of reflection, I suppose, about the value or not of these assessment tools, although they have grown across the world and is actively promoted by the United Nations and other kind of global bodies such as the World Bank. There is that sort of ongoing question about is it worth it? So some of these critiques here you might be able to see on the screen, hopefully, is around the impact upon time. Does it add too much length to a project or a plan? Is it just too bureaucratic, that huge pile of paper? Although that's a kind of general one pulled from Google Images. Some of these assessment documents are very long. Ultimately, does someone read them and does it have any bearing? And you know, the stamp which says approved, even though someone may have prepared an assessment, what was it always going to be prepared anyway? You know, is there too much political weight upon that? There's also discussion around the cost of undertaking assessment and whether that cost is kind of worth the outputs coming forward. And there's also, in that reference to Build Back Better, a question mark, for instance, around, you know, is once as we're coming out of the pandemic and we need to kind of go for growth, is undertaking assessment a helpful tool or not on that journey? You know, is it a process by which development can be facilitated, or ultimately would it cause some element of frustration? And I think I've nearly got one last image on here, and one also around the skills, ability, and knowledge of those involved. And certainly in the UK, there have been question marks around the amount of resource and the amount of skill in relation to being able to undertake these assessments to a required level. Now, those sort of critiques have been raised by a range of different organisations, and I suppose in terms of impact on policy, there is some sort of shifts taking place at the moment. And on this slide, it just shows a selection of these headlines in terms of how environmental legislation in relation to these core forms of assessment are happening. And you can see, you know, there's mixed messages here. Some are, you know, looking for some tightening up of procedures. Some are looking potentially at narrowing down or watering down what is required. And in the UK at the moment, or at least in England, there is a discussion happening in relation to our own system of environmental impact assessment and strategic environmental assessment to see how these processes can be made more friendly or made more efficient, and to ensure that they deliver the impacts they're supposed to be doing. You know, at the moment, there's a question, although they've been presented in a way which is recognising the importance of the environment and with a strong ambition for greater environmental protection, there is an element of unease in terms of whether the proposals will essentially kind of lessen that protection in place. And what is interesting actually is a move away from talking about impacts in assessment to outcomes. And as part of my research project at the moment, I'm beginning to understand what outcomes essentially means. If you look at the broad body of literature, it isn't a word which necessarily jumps out at you. And there will need to be some sort of learning and knowledge and underpinning that to ensure that orientation is coming forward. So I think certainly when I was looking at the new urban agenda, I was quite surprised that the focus on assessment was perhaps somewhat light compared to what I thought it would be. And maybe in this sort of time of change and reflection, there is a need for that sort of to be tightened up. But I know in the room, there's a huge wealth of expertise and experience in a wide range of areas in planning. And if anyone has got any views, and this is where I normally chat in the break, but as I'm many miles away from you, if you do have any comments or any email, any sort of thoughts, then do let me know. Rather foolishly, I didn't type in my email address here, but what I'll do is just do that in real time, just in case anyone does want to get in contact. It is quite simple. It's nick.smith@landuse.co.uk. I'm sure you won't be able to see that on your screen, but I will make it super big. There you go. And hopefully it'd be nice to hear some thoughts from you. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope you have a very enjoyable and thought-provoking conference. So thank you.
Hello, Nick.
Hi, Anil. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Anil. So, really interesting work in LUP going on. So, glad to see all those projects on EIA and other areas. Really interesting.
Thank you. And I think it'll be certainly interesting. I know we've had discussions around the implementation of assessment in India, and be interesting to sort of see what the mood is there in terms of being supportive or not. But appreciate that the time scale is tight, and I won't hold up the discussion. So, but nice to see you all, and enjoy what you're hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And welcome, Dr. Anil Kashyap. So, we have been looking at your work through the social media and other platforms, and I was really very curious to see you, but unfortunately, you are offline. Anyway, welcome. Dr. Anil Kashyap is the founder, president, and chancellor of Nikmar University, Pune. He has more than 30 years of experience in practice, academia, and research. To mention few of his credentials, Dr. Kashyap had been head of Bristol School of Geography and Environment, and he is founder, president, and chancellor of Nikmar University. His expertise includes infrastructure development, finance, urban regeneration, and real estate research. Yes, sir, I invite you for your presentation.
Thank you for kind introduction. Let me share my screen here, and then I can talk to the. Yes, I guess, is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. It's a long day, and I think I will end up with something very interesting, which is around education, the role of education in achieving new urban agenda. I would be really brief in terms of sort of details which are still emerging as far as new urban agenda implementation in higher education is concerned. However, there are some, interesting interventions in many universities are happening, and some of these curriculums are being aligned to have the better impact of some of these pledges in our new urban agenda, which was launched in 2016. The presentation will contain a bit of an introduction and some of the questions we will be raising, some of the engagement premises, and the way forward where some of these interventions can happen. If we look at new urban agenda, the history, the genesis of this, it was an outcome of the document which was agreed upon at Habitat 3 Cities Conference in Kyoto, Ecuador in October 2016, and signed by all the UN member states. So there were a number of stakeholders involved in this whole exercise, and later on as well, the cities, the nation states, the regional governments, and a lot of leadership, the city leaderships. These were stakeholders signing up to the agenda. And after the enactment of this document, actually attention had shifted to implementation, how to implement its principles, which was really interesting outcome of and ambition, how we can implement new urban agenda. And these stakeholders started talking about in their own domains. Cities started talking about in their planning departments, regions, their regional plans, and the leadership into the governance and their delivery in the cityscape. So there was something which was actually then down to the universities and the education institution. And I believe that that university had a special role in preparing young professionals. We have that, and these young professionals who are critical citizens to face the challenges of making our cities sustainable, prosperous, fair, equitable, inclusive. These are the challenges thrown to the young planners, young graduates of university students in various planning disciplines. So the main question came how to prepare young professionals to understand and implement the new urban agenda in a very diverse national and local environment. If you can see the number of nation states and the cities and the regions who have signed up the new urban agenda, they come in from various geographical locations, coming from global south, from global north, and some of the regions they don't have the similar sort of challenges, and every challenge and every implementation hurdles and barriers are so different and so specific to the particular nation and the region, or even to the location as well. So it needed really some interesting and serious thinking that how the skills and how the training of the young professionals can impact on overall delivery of this new urban agenda, rather than at ground level, rather than being onto the books. So number of engagement premises were identified, and the first engagement premise was about education for urban development in inter and multidisciplinary. So this is quite important, where we are talking about interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. So the School of Planning and Design were required to have this understanding of multidisciplinarity, where the knowledge and practice areas they come from the allied disciplines as well. Planning is not all about land use planning. It has a lot of involvement of anthropology, sociology, economics, and even there are certain diverse areas which are very helpful and supportive and cognate to the urban development, and those are so important, and how the engagement of youth can happen from those diverse discipline into setting up a new urban agenda. That is the first premise. Then the staff and students are increasingly mobile, and the universities are looking internationally, and the universities they are responsible for these young graduate, and to tackle these global challenges. So the context is so important, though, so that they actually understand and listen to the international context. The global south and global north I was talking about, they share many problems of urban development, but the intensity of problem varies dramatically, and so does the implementation capacity. So it was very interesting that in global south, where lots of nations they fall, where there are significant challenges in terms of urban development, where global north has different challenges in terms of sustainability and being keeping sustainable, and looking at the resource conservation, circular economy, etc. Knowledge about urban development in global south must be produced and co-produced by and with the researcher and practitioner from the global south only. This was quite interesting in terms of the understanding of the problem, because if you are not having grasp of the situation where you live and where you come from, it will be difficult to appreciate that what the challenges and what the solution would look like. And that was another premise of engagement. And the education in urban development, that must happen within the framework of democracy, value, ethics, as well. So it was again very interesting when you look at from the government and governance point of view, the corruption and the kind of the the level of trickle of the funding mechanisms at the grassroots level, all those were really interesting areas for engagement. And as a result of some of these engagement premises, number of drivers of change were identified, and some of these driver of change were coming from these premises itself. And the first one is governance and partnership, planning and design, financing, land, housing and services, environment, health and safety, economy, education, technology, and finally the monitoring and evaluation. And it makes a complete process, complete ecosystem of urban development. When you look at all those 10 indicators, these make sense for successful implementation of some of these urban planning schemes. So based on these engagement premises, there were a number of solutions which were discussed, and some of these solutions, they can find way into curriculum development. When we look at from the university perspective, when I say we are running a program in planning, then from the university perspective, I think the major responsibility is to integrate these aspects into delivery of the skills and teaching in the day-to-day classroom engagement. And that's where universities and higher education, they must actively seek to improve the relationship between government, local government, research and education, because local governments, they know the pressing question of their urgency. And the universities, they and the education institution, if they can provide, listen and look at those new questions and provide new solutions, and that's how these skills and research and education can help addressing the new urban agenda challenges and questions. Engagement of higher education in real world urban management challenges must be constant and embedded into local governance as well. So rather than having a curriculum which is more classroom centric, one can devise something which is more applied. Students deal with or these young professionals deal with, I use this word young professionals, this can be anybody into trainings or education, and they can then engage with real urban management challenges, and they produce some solutions which are, rather than a bookish assignment completing at the end of the semester. Universities also, they must actively seek transdisciplinarity into project and stakeholders, because the stakeholders are so diverse, and they are coming from different disciplines, in order to get and it is a complex environment, and in order to get a fit for all solution, one has to look at these transdisciplinarity and the various stakeholder. Also the learning from the education from various thematic perspective, like gender equality, participation, democracy, citizenship, these are beyond the sort of curriculum, and we have to look and build those into the day to day engagement pattern of the student cohort. Also, universities in particularly in Europe or some other places, point number two is that they seek to decolonize the urban studies. Number of cases, you might look at the book of anybody coming writing from the perspective of the European context, or suggesting solutions from where some of these problems have not been there. And that means that there are a number of examples which can be taken from the global south, and that is normally called, that kind of curriculum is called decolonization of curriculum. Means that you are not talking about what is your own experiences, but take experiences and solutions from the places which where they have been generated. This actually takes us down to to sort of final slide here in terms of the conclusion and way forward. Means these are in terms of the understanding of the city issues, and look at the university curriculum to be more agile in order to understand these issues and challenges, and then be very more proactive rather than reactive to make those changes in the curriculum and give the kind of right education, right training and skills for these young professionals, so they can actually be part of that. Universities are unique places where some of these dissemination of research, critical thinking can take place, and knowledge can be effectively disseminated. So I think use of this platform to address new urban agenda and take the way forward would be really really useful. Universities also they must seek to improve the relationship between local government, research and education. I think there is both way responsibility. It's not on the on one party, one side of things, but universities also need to get this engagement, which is in particularly in our case it doesn't happen that much. Here we do talk and teach very straight jacket curriculum, and engagement with the industry, with the local government and all that doesn't really percolate down into curriculum. And there are number of challenges as well in terms of regulations and type of curriculum which is prescribed by AICTE and all those regulatory bodies, and how much you deviate and all that challenge is always there, and that's the variability is also captured in various curriculums. So that's sort of more or less I would suggest that universities, they do have or the education institution or education per se have a challenge and have a responsibility to to look at and to contribute into delivery of new urban agenda. And that's where I will conclude my talk, saying that in our new urban planning program, which we are starting in NICMAR from September or August September 2023, we are trying to incorporate number of these themes so that they become more pertinent and indirectly or directly can help in delivering and assigning some of or solving some of these challenges which we are looking at. Being in global south is very very fortunate and lucky, because we have got lots of challenges and problems. Teaching, and I have been into into other parts of the world teaching something very similar, but I think that was out of place when you talk about issues and problems of water scarcity in Chennai or in Cape Town, without being in Cape Town or Chennai and understand the local dynamics and why this has happened. So that's why we are that way lucky and fortunate that we will be addressing something which is sitting there in global south, and we look at these problems very very closely. That's what I was thinking, that I would give a message into this conference. And thank you very much for accommodating me virtually. It was a little bit busy schedule. I wanted to come, but I will definitely compensate next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for showing us a path how to reorient the education system to have more livable cities and sustainable communities. And you have made a very valid point that now the education has to be interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. And again, the second thing is decolonization of education system, because it is very true the way the global north is taking care of certain issues cannot be adopted as it is in Indian context. So that thing has been taken well. And so though you are not here, though you are not here, but you have NICMAR is having a very good representation in morning session. We have a presentation by Rahul Deshpande, who was talking about the transportation sector and its impact on environment. and also and Ramakrishna highlighted the issues of energy efficiency, and then there are many more presentations from your university which are lined up for presentations, and I am sure the kind of progress NICMAR is making under your able guidance. So it is not only the NICMAR but the academia is getting benefited by your able guidance. And Professor Abdul Razak is also here. He want to
Yes.
share certain things with you.
Hello, Dr. Professor Anil Kashyap sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. Good evening. I'm very well, and I'm really pleased to hear and see you after a long time. You have been my guru in School of Planning, so I'm really fortunate.
So I'm also feel proud that not a student, as a good friend, and you are signing up very nicely. But I like that you are the Indianized way of presentation since you spent 35 years in UK. But I still feel that you are in my class. Anyway, it's very interesting to see that education sector is really, we need to move forward a long way. What you experience in your UK, I too experience in France and visiting 2-3 universities as a professor, visiting professor. And it's very important to connect the education with the local government and local people. It's not classroom-based studies. I will give you an example. 2 exercises I have done after completing my PhD from Australia. So one with the Kerala government, state town planning department and district town planning officer. We prepared a district development plan for Palakkad. So it's completely the interactive program, participatory plan, which prepared a district development plan is implemented. That's only with the government. The second project I worked with DLF company is a corporate sector. Not only the international, the collaboration should be with the local government, but also the corporate sector, they come forward. I worked as a social development expert. We prepared a redevelopment plan for T Nagar. It's a very small part of the city area, which is designed for a residential area, now become a international commercial, local commercial hub. So it's worked very well with working with that, both government sector as well as for the corporate sector with my students. So it was a really interesting thing. With that, now also I'm trying, but unless the connections between you and the government and the corporate sector, there should be a network yearly. Otherwise, nobody is coming forward and taking our idea into the practice. Since these 2 things work because of they are from Delhi school, your batch or some of your junior batch was there, and they took forward and then worked together, and it worked very well. And I think it's a very implementable work. As you said rightly, that now we have to practice. This is more important, which I am telling the planning schools, faculties, and students also. Right. Thank you for listening to me now, not as a teacher, but as a friend. Because I think I'm very happy to see you long distance. Maybe we'll see you soon. Thank you. Then. Best wishes.
Thank you, sir. I will come and see you sometime. And if you visit Pune, please do come.
Yes.
And we are working closely with ISPER. My colleagues are there with you in person, filling in for me. But we are really having a good partnership with ISPER, and we welcome lots of initiatives jointly as well. And we look forward to many more.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Kashyap. And now I request Dr. Vikram Singh Sekhon, Director Plan and Development Services, Melbourne, Australia, to deliver his lecture on water-sensitive urban planning, developing sustainable neighborhood and communities. Dr. Sekhon is working as Director Plan and Development in Melbourne, Australia, and he is land development planning and engineer with several years of experiences, and also he has contributed significantly to the profession. His focus area of working are stormwater drainage, network planning, land subdivision, strategic planning inputs to transport planning, and many other residential and industrial development projects. I welcome you, sir, and invite you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. And I believe this is my last presentation in this session. And thank you very much, Sazad Jaswant Singh, for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to share my experience. So I would like to share my screen so that it will be easy. I believe this will be the last session, and my most of the presentation is graphical, and I will like to conclude very quickly. And I believe after that, you're also going to have some concluding remarks. So I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully, when you see. Can you see something on screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So my presentation is basically on precisely, if I talk, is on strategic planning. Probably the way I have watched some of the previous presentations. So two broad areas that come to my mind. One is policy, and one is strategies that we develop to develop a town.
Dr. Sekhon, have you emailed your presentation to us?
No. Can I share online?
Yes, sir. Your presentation is not visible to us.
Okay.
Sir, you can share it online.
So that we can do it for you.
So do you want me to send you the presentation now?
Screen sharing kar le wo.
A screen share, this is what I want to do. Screen share, I will do it. So you can see, can you see your screen?
No.
I have shared my screen. Yeah.
It's okay.
Now we can see your
Now we can see.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So
you can do presentation mode now.
Okay. Yes. Can you see on presentation mode? Okay. Yes, can you see?
Yes, sir. It is visible. Please go ahead.
So I'm starting my presentation the way I used to talk and listen late Shri Kamar Surjit Singh. I believe that he started taking advocacy in defense of planning when he talking to geography, when he's talking to infrastructure development, when he's talking general process. And my entire focus will be on a shift that is required in Indian town planning, and that is based on how much we are concerned about the water, of course, the natural water, the storm water, the runoff that is generated in our cities. So we all believe that primarily the general context of our planning so far is local, regional, or the countryside is what the conceptual town planning process the way we work. And if I give a broad area here, the three areas where we're talking, and I have seen some of the presentation were also revolving around this economy and development. And of course, when we talk about city and network, and nowadays, if we talk about the variety of networks, I'm sitting here and we're talking global process, and we are a part of a wider network. So our society is becoming a part of city and network, where this presentation will be water sensitive, primarily related to network water sensitivity. So if we talk about the broad framework, especially where I have worked in last so many years when I was in India, in northern Indian states, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, northern Delhi, and other states. So there are three areas there most of the planning approaches are focusing. Master planning, and we talk a lot about master plans. We talk about something about structure plan, and I think we are very rarely talking about local plans. When in ISPER, we used to talk about sustainable communities, a sustainable neighborhood. I believe the detailing of the local level planning is very important so that we can achieve the desired goals and objective that is set at a master level. If we talk about Australian context, it's similar to what we have the framework in India and most of the Indian states. And if you can see the broad, this picture is explaining in itself. It's a part of the metropolitan area of Melbourne, and where we see that where I'm talking city, the arrow which is indicating city. So it is a local area, which is a local area planning that is quite focused in Australian system. So I'm making some details on this. If you think this is the broad area and the different shading pattern indicates the various local areas which within the city. If you see the broad network, again, this is again in a regional context. So if I see in this slide, because my research was in Punjab, I also see that the urban areas in Punjab are also revolving around the network of various types. And if we see the urban areas in Punjab, urbanization is concentrated only in few cities. And out of the few cities, again, we give some focus on small, large cities. Small and large cities, the primary focus is on 4 or 5 cities, which absorb more than 50% urban population in considered few cities. So what I need to say, the planning approach is more focused on few cities, and then we need to see the smaller communities. The current shift in planning approach, while in Australia, is primarily mixing natural system within the local development. Even if it's industrial, if it is a highway planning, if it is a development of small communities in the form of neighborhood, so their maximum emphasis is their nearness to nature. And how can we plan it? That's the challenge. That is the shift that we need in urban planning. I try to synthesize the whole planning approach from a water cyclic process. It's a more broader area as urban ecology. The awareness that we require in planning process is that stormwater that we talk in geographical studies is primarily based on the natural landscape process. But in urban areas, when you see on urban fabric, it is a mix of so many services and so many roads and other areas. So the best practices that we adopt is to retain the maximum stormwater within the communities, reuse it, bring more water recycling process, and bringing more water harvesting, and precise development of a lot of real estate in India. In large cities, we know we have a lot of residential townships, but we are never using water as an asset to reuse within the same areas. So this is the approach, that this is the shift that we are thinking is a valuable for Indian cities. This is a broad, I try to create a heart just for understanding that over the broad natural land going to produce in our cities. I just captured this slide for, this is one of the example in Melbourne, which is the Central River Lake. And if you see the creeks and water bodies around our cities, why they are not livable, why they are not walkable, why they are not used as a natural habitat. So it means somewhere, somehow in urban planning practice, we are lacking some vision or some discussion that need to be incorporated to make our societies more sustainable and developing a healthy community. So this is the aim, that we need to create water bodies like this. If you go back into planning principle, planning process, all we know, it's more more hierarchical pattern. This all the cities and most of our neighborhoods are designed on this local level streets, and it's part of continue with the link roads and other areas. So I'm directly coming to some of the examples that we're adopting and developing in new neighborhoods, new residential areas. If you see in the previous slides and this slide, it's more focused on a lot of green area within the network. Now these green areas are just next to the natural water bodies, but there are strictly some buffer zones. And what some fine examples in India are river-based projects or coastal area projects, but they are very limited to certain areas. So there is a lot of need in all the new residential area or greenfield development, develop all the water bodies, keeping in mind that the neighborhood is also contributing to the water body, not to the polluting. How this approach is handled, that's a challenge. I take in one example, like a local level street. There are local level streets, and these streets are the water carriers. All from residential areas, the streets are designed in such a way that the rainfall is taken and catered to the desired destination. This is the plan, and this is what exactly we have tried to create. You see at the bottom, this is the wetland that will ultimately leading to the water into the wetland to treat it and developing it for the landscaping. And this water is again recycled and reused for parks and open spaces. This is one example how the green area along the side of open spaces are used. All green areas are preserved in a desert country like Australia with the help of the reusing the whatever water available within the neighborhood in itself. So this is the road cross-section road. And a road is not only a road, it has an entire well-planned network of services all around it. It's what generally we also adopt in similarly in our cities. If we go into let us suppose take example how a small residence is generating. I try to frame this model of a graphical presentation where you see we have a property, we have a car parking space, and whenever in the second photo we see there is a whenever there's a rain, there's a possibility that the rain will flow with the entire area. It will pass through the buildings and it will pass through the road and it will overflow, affecting the vehicles and disturb the all system. But if we planned it, the same water, just planning a one pipe network, one drainage channel, one network, and that need a mathematical modeling approach to adopt in a plan process so that your water is not that level, that within the minimum level. A car has a standard height all over the world, which is a 15 centimeter, which is 150 mm. So the water shouldn't be more than 150 mm so that it can travel within the pipes, within the drainage network. Now, in case of high density development where India there is a large population, then again we have to design an infrastructure or a more open spaces that can cater for the flow channels. So the entire placing of the blocks, residential blocks, is along the flow channels. This is another example where the road levels are designed in such a way that it can cater for the drainage pipe network within the area. The road hierarchy, the road levels are decided based upon the road or water pipe network, not on the any other requirement. How this is done? Let's take a local street. If you just if you try to see or zoom into this screen, this is the filling plan which is required to be submitted along with the local neighborhood planning scheme. The plan also indicating the levels of a given lot. The plan also indicating the services that are passing. The plan also indicating the level of the roads. And mind it, we in our planning process or our decision making, the executive engineer is supposed to give the level of a particular road, or we have the standard or basic building bylaws. The plinth level should be higher on a particular level. But actually, if we see in our cities, that practice is somehow ignored. That practice somehow not followed. So this is one starting point where everything is level based and controlled. A level control sheet is supplied. If I further zoom into, you can see all the 4 levels, and there are some numbers are there. These numbers are the existing and proposed levels, and these numbers are also indicating the type of filling and type of cut filling that will be involved in a local street. Then the second will come a technical sheet in a house or in a property. Then again in a property, how much water will be generated, how much water will be retained in each block, that is computed, and accordingly the infrastructure in the street is decided. The street width, street height is decided based upon how much runoff can pass through the street. So if we see when we do the planning and rails, first of all we have to do cut and fill plan. And based on cut and fill plan, we prepare our project estimates and budgeting for the entire planning process. And based on these two aspects, how much funding we are available, we decide about the road widths, road hierarchy, and this is what the basis of any strategic planning is decided. Any major intersections that can affect any other road components, the type of road component entirely, they depend upon 2 factors, cut and fill, budgeting, and then the strategic planning vision we have. If we adopt this practice, this kind of hierarchy system, that is a neighborhood where we decide that support services and payment and road width, how is decided. Now within this area, this is one of the recently developed area in Melbourne, and this has considered as a best master plan community area where everything is produced, 80% water is recycled and reused within the neighborhood based on this principle. So what we can conclude here that these are the last 2 slides where we can conclude that based on the first factor, all the geographical environment and landscape, they are part of strategic planning, which are backed with the cut and fill system and then budgeting system.
And basically, it's an engineering decision which is done or taken by the strategic planner together, and accordingly, they prepare some budgeting and estimates. So what I see, the approach that we adopt while taking EDC charges, CLU charges, so it has to be coordinated on that base. In India, I know there is a fixed CLU based system, but when we give a detailed planning for a neighborhood, CLU and EDC charges may vary, or the infrastructure cost may vary to include certain amount of from those funding areas to invest within those neighborhood in order to achieve a sustainable area. So I'm just concluding with one last slide where what I started, that we need to do some advocacy on this water strategies. Any plan process, there are 4 pillars, and development plan, which is a part or sub part of a master plan, they need to be submitted right from for an individual unit house or a combination of house, 5 houses, 10 houses, or street based. And then we have to do our cost and budgeting, and we have to develop an entire community, entire public open spaces, entire recycling basis system that should also be part of planning process. So that community, this is what the theme of this seminar was, to develop a sustainable community, which is only possible if we reorient our approach to the planning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. It is very true that in India we consider our rivers as they have very socio-cultural values associated with them. We had been having so many religious activities and rituals along the river, but we have not considered water, this particular aspect of water which you are talking about. And it is very true that for actually implementation of such kind of projects where we want to harness the potential of stormwater or rainwater, micro level planning is very important. And yes, in India, most of the time we fail to do this because we never consider the road level, the plinth level, the relationship between these different levels. So, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Sir, anyone to comment on sir's presentation?
Could we request?
I think we can have 1 or 2 comments.
Could we request Professor Sekhon for his presentation, because that will be valuable for many of our participants.
Yeah. So if you can share your presentation, definitely it's going to help all of us here. So
Yeah.
I'll
send it just now. Thank you.
Yeah. There is one comment from Professor Abdul Razak.
Thank you, Chairman. Dr. Vikram Singh, hello, I'm pronouncing your name correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Till morning, I am listening to previous 2 speakers also talked about Melbourne. I lived 3 years in Melbourne. I was.
Oh, really? Thank you. That's great.
So I did my doctorate from RMIT Melbourne, Royal Melbourne.
Okay. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see that how the neighborhoods are there. I'm also seeing that we cannot make why not we make such kind of neighborhoods here? So I see that the Yara riverfront development, it was a very fantastic place where it can be by nature, everybody can enjoy the sea and walking. I know every year they conduct Mumba Festival.
Yes.
That time, they have to be a completely lively activity.
Yes.
And it's very interesting, and the neighborhood planning is having a lot of avenues to implement a lot of our ideas, which is not technology based or planning standard based, but it should be people oriented, what people like to have. That's what more important, what you are also trying to say there. In this context, I have written one article about 20 years ago. I was working with the Minister of Environment, how we had in our rural and semi-urban areas, which is missing in our in urban cities and centers like this. So this is one aspect. Second aspect we are working on in our neighborhoods in Chennai, how we can conserve energy, electricity. So we are trying to implement solar energy panel post, in every house, which will be it's about 20,000 rupees investment. It will be done in my neighborhood colony. So it is installed that once you will have a light every day, and every night
it can be tilted. You can keep it in inside, but the night time you can tilt to the roadside. Every house is having one. We don't need the street light. It's a very highly secured area. Some of our areas are like a little bit of middle and high income area. We experience a lot of theft. People jump inside and take things and go away. Now, the entire colony is having very nice, safe, and secure life. It is not because of the government installed anything. It is the community themselves come forward, and we have community meetings and say that why not we go for solar lamps in every house. And because of the solar lamp, you know the customary way of designing our houses with the walls, with so many lamps will be, so many lights will be there. Every wall will have more than 8, 5, or 10 lamps, bulbs will be there. All incandescent bulb, its energy is so much. But now what happened, if you see the colony of about 200 families, so 200 families means you had about a wall with 4 lamps. Now 800 lamps are not, bulbs are not there. It's not required. So that means energy consumption is also there. The electricity is also consumed, less consumption inside houses. We worked out and calculated how much money they're saving because of not paying to the electricity company. But night time is no electricity is used. No? So that's the kind of situation where community themselves is coming forward and doing some practices like that, which is energy efficient, water conservation, so whatnot. We can see that culture of the people change. Naturally, which can be like what we discussed about previously the last month about World Cities Day. Now, act local, go global. Previously, we were talking about think global and local. So I see that change now then. So this is some kind of an effort which is very, very local, which is active, which can be go global. That is fit into the urban October and our the sustainable development goal also. This is almost we are trying to do that. Some small examples I thought I'd share with you. Thank you for the listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, ISPER, and thank you, Jaswant Singh ji, and good to see all of you, especially Dr. Professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, so now we have come to an end of this particular session, but still, if you want to ask 1 or 2 questions, I think at least 2 of our speakers are here. Yes, please.
So myself, Dr. Manoj Pawar. So with the solutions that SERV is providing or most of the speakers are providing, is it feasible for the population that we are having to adopt the similar kind of solutions? Like all those plot sizes that he was talking about, they are not available in India, and even in rural part of India, we are not able to afford such kind of luxury that they are having. So with the economics of finance component that SERV was talking earlier the day, so is it really feasible?
It may not be feasible, but I don't find anything wrong in adopting such practices. Maybe sooner or later we will be able to do it. Maybe we have to think about that this is a concept which we have to use in our context. So we have to conceptualize this. So we have to translate it. Like we as a planner, this is our responsibility to translate these things into executable things in our place. Like I can give you certain examples. I mean, years back, people used to, there was a lot of theft in even our trains. People used to take out all those bulbs and other things. But now you can see a number of planters and other things which are there in our cities, and they are there. So the society will change. And it is also very true that it is not a new concept for us. As Sir was saying that we had been doing this in our rural areas, but we have very different way of doing it. But now looking at the scale and the magnitude of the problem, we have to adopt technology. So until and unless we do that, so yes, it can be contextualized in our context. We have to translate this thing into our own system.
Yes, may I just react to this question?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
In fact, as far as water conservation is concerned, yes, we cannot have those kind of luxuries which Australians have. They have a lot of land and they can plan their neighborhoods in a sparse manner. We can't do that. I agreed that. But the issue of water conservation, we have our own regulations. Now we have a regulation that in Haryana, every household needs to have their own water harvesting structure. rainwater harvesting structure. Like I have recently built a house, not a single drop of water from my house during these monsoon has gone on the road. It has all gone to the recharging structure, and this has not flooded also. So nothing has happened. So entire water, whatever comes from rain in my house, is going into the recharging structure. Similarly, from the roads, the water will definitely needs to be channelized. Then in that case also we can think of water harvesting, at the community level. So we need to think that when we are saying that act locally, that act locally is only to find these solutions to these problems. Okay, yes, those examples are there only to tell us that in neighborhoods we can do certain things, which can help us in conserving water, conserving energy. Like Sir has said, Razak Sir has said that energy case they have started the solar light and then they use it as a street light also. So those solutions can be looked at and found out in local area, locally only. So I think we can do our own innovations. Let's not depend on Australians on this. He has given us a presentation. Yeah, so let's do our own innovations.
Just for your information, I tell my friend, in Tamil Nadu, if you want to take permission for your building, you must show in your plan you are having water harvesting in your house.
Everywhere is there now.
It is there. Everywhere is there. And also now they are introduced that you have to have a solar panel in your house.
Yes.
When I constructed, it's about 5-6 years ago in my town, suburban Chennai, everything was in the but practicing. It's not that getting signature and not. But that's a good move. No? From the government side also, the regulations are now clear in our mind. But people have to practice.
I have a 6 kilowatt solar panels, so I get my bill is zero.
Yes.
Huh?
Even people are thinking about wind energy also. It will be cost about 2 lakhs in your house. You can have wind energy.
Yeah, that's right.
No, the day will come. Electricity will not be available. You have to make your own electricity. Yes, it's going to happen now.
That's right. So, if nothing more is there, then we thank the chair, co-chair, and the panelists sitting here, and the panelists who have made presentations through virtually for giving us, opportunity to engage with them. And we hope that in future some of these presentations can be held physically. Then, if circumstances would permit us, then we would like these people to, like Dr. Anil Kashyap was supposed to come here, but yesterday he got stuck up in somewhere in Hyderabad, so he couldn't get out of it till 6 o'clock in the evening, so he couldn't come. So we close this session now, thanking everybody here, all the participants. I know post lunch sitting till 6 o'clock is a tough punishment, but still number of people are sitting here, so that's an encouraging sign that people are interested in what is being said here and what is being talked to. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody. Now we will break for the day. You can have tea in the dining hall, and what in the evening we have planned dinner. So I don't know whether the people staying in the here only. So Dr. Dhote and Dr. Razak and I are staying in hotel, so may not need to go there and change, and refresh. You can be given a room here if you want to relax. Huh?
Actually, we decided during lunch that we will extend this session up to extent that it becomes free dinner.
So it is a free dinner. So yeah. So we have a dinner here itself. So in the evening, now we break for about it's 6 o'clock. So we gather around 7:30, quarter to 8. So it's a 1.5 hour. So you can stretch your legs. It's a nice colony. You can move around, and then sit in the room.
One more thing, it's not a number matter. I think a beautiful small. Small is beautiful now. So we had a very beautiful audience here today. I have never seen anybody sleeping also. After lunch. Thank you very much.
Tomorrow we start at 9:45. So tomorrow is also a hectic day because tomorrow we are concluding also. So we have 2 sessions, 3 sessions in the morning. two here in the main conference room and one in the smaller conference hall. So after lunch we will have a valedictory session. So all the chairs, I know Ivan is saying that he is going tomorrow morning, he'll be leaving, but maybe we'll find out if he can get connected with us online. We will see. So we will engage him in the valedictory session also. The technology will help us in connecting with you. So thank you very much. So we now come back tomorrow morning at 9:45 and restarts the thing. Thank you very much. Thank you.